7 ways that accepting influence can save your marriage. Again, 7 ways that accepting influence can save your marriage. A lot of folks don't necessarily understand the idea and the concept of accepting influence, but this is an important piece, y'all, when it comes to having a healthy and successful relationship. For those who don't know, on IG, my name is Ayize Mayad. I'm a trained therapist and relationship coach. I do this work with my wife daily. We help individuals and couples in their relationship. And if you want some support or assistance in your relationship, do me a favor. Type "help me" in the chat, or you can, DM the word "help me" to us. We also got a 21-day Building Better Communication Challenge that's kicking off on January the 1st. So get your spot, y'all. You could DM or comment, communicate, and we'll send you some information about the challenge. Again, it's Building Better Communication, 21-day challenge. I hope y'all are able to show up and participate and engage in the experience. All right, let me go ahead and get into it. So again, tonight I'm talking about 7 ways accepting influence can save your marriage. This right here isn't exclusively marriage specific. So let's be clear about that too. And this topic came about as a result of a conversation that I had with my wife, but it wasn't related to she and I. It was about what was going on as it pertains to me and our children. And so I had to accept the influence of my wife, which helped me to the idea and the concept of accepting the influence of our children. So let me give y'all the backstory really quickly. So there's something that I don't know what type of household you grew up in. I'm truly thankful. My parents have been married for 52 years, or maybe even 53 years by now. But I grew up in a 2-parent household, and I'm blessed and I'm thankful. And I saw a father and a mother interacting, engaging with each other, loving up on each other, and communicating and that type of thing. However, there's some other things that I saw too. And what I saw was what many of us who are in my age demographic may have witnessed when it comes to 2-parent households, like the man that grew up in he was born in the 50s, 40s, 60s. Like, they come up, it's a certain type of generation of dude that you're dealing with. And so my father was that dude. And, what he did was he established his presence in the household, and he basically he wasn't ruling with no iron fist, but it was clear. It was clear that he had control and he had power and he had influence. And so, it was one of them type of situations where my brothers and I, we ain't necessarily buck back, push back, or if we did, we knew that there was a consequence that was attached to it. Do me a favor, if you grew up in a household with a father who was born in the 40s or 50s, type a 1 in the chat. Type a 1 in the chat if you grew up in a house. Now, some of y'all might have been like, my father wasn't around. But if you know the type of dude that I'm talking about, like if you grew up in a household with a father who was born in the 40s, 50s, before 1970s, like, type a 1 in the chat. And if you had that experience, then you'll be able to relate and resonate with what it is that I'm speaking about. Like, there was a different way of being. And I'm not saying categorically that all men were like this. But what I am saying is that when it came to being in relationship, connecting in, leaning in, and the emotional aspect of connecting and being in relationships, sometimes, or a lot of times rather, that was absent. That was absent. And so you had men who would be present, you had men who would provide financially, but when it came to meeting the emotional needs of a child, a lot of times that was absent. And so in my experience personally, what I'll say is this, that my father was there, always there, and I'm truly thankful. Was showing for everything, had my back 1,001%. However, y'all, one thing that I realized is that I was often doing what he wanted me to do in the way in which he wanted me to do it. And so, yeah, he got the wisdom, he got the experience, he got the exposure, and in many respects, like, he's going to do things better than me because I'm a child. At that particular point, I was a child. And so I had these experiences where I'm looking and I have a voice, but sometimes I don't necessarily feel comfortable expressing my voice. And so, again, blessed with a 2-parent household, a father who's present, a father who's always showing up, somebody who I can call on to this day, and he got my back. Again, I'm thankful for all of that. At the same time, there was one piece that I know was absent or that was missing. And it was the comfort or the discomfort that I felt as it came to me expressing my thoughts and my feelings. And so relatively recently, my wife and I, we had a conversation, and she said, sometimes she'll call me Baba. Baba means father in Swahili, but she was like, Baba, like, you talk about in the work that you do with couples, the importance of accepting influence. And, you accept influence from me. But she hit me with a banger, y'all. She said, but I don't know if you really are open to accepting the influence from your children. That right there, like, I had to take a couple of steps back, y'all. What you talking about accepting influence from my children? Again, if you had a father that was born in the 40s, 50s, maybe even 60s, I mean, you grew up with a certain type of dad and a certain type of orientation in terms of what it means to be a man. And so a lot of times what it means to be a man is you do as I say, you do as you're told. And your perspective and your opinions and your feedback, your thoughts and your feelings, they don't matter. They just don't matter. And so when my wife said, I don't know if you accept the influence of your children, again, I had to take a couple of steps back and consider, like, is this the case? I'm talking about this within the context of relationships, interpersonal or partner relationships. But when it comes to parent-child relationships, it's applicable too. And so, yeah, be seen and not heard mentality. Yep, that was real. And so, again, I had to reconsider and I had to take a couple of steps back. Do I accept influence from my children? And of course, I'm going to say I think that I do. But what I also say, in addition to that, is that I can do a lot better. I can do a lot better. And so tonight's topic came about as a result of me having that conversation with my wife and recognizing that in the parent-child relationship, it's also a space where I'm challenged as it pertains to accepting influence. And I do it well within the context of my relationship with my wife. But when it comes to that hierarchy, I struggle a little bit with that. Like, how much influence do I expect my children to have over me? And accepting their influence, like, what does that mean? I got 5 children, y'all. I mean, I could be pulled in a bunch of different locations. I am pulled in a bunch of different locations on a regular basis. And so accepting influence, like, I need to walk a straight line. But the reality of the situation is that if you want to have a healthy relationship, it's important that it's not just your voice that's being spoken and being heard, but whomever you're in a relationship with, whether it be your spouse or be your children, be your parents, it's important that their voice is heard too. And so that's what I'm gonna be talking about tonight, y'all. Not the parent-child dynamic, but the husband-wife partner dynamic in a relationship. And everything that I share, real talk, is applicable within the context of a romantic relationship. And so as you're listening to what I'm lifting up, again, if you're not in a romantic relationship, then what you could do is take what I'm sharing and apply it to the relationship that you are in. One thing that I know is that, these lessons that I share and that we share are good nuggets, good pieces that, again, are applicable to all relationships. So I want to know who we got in the room today. If you want IG, do me a favor. If you're in a romantic relationship, type 1 in the chat. Type 1 in the chat. If you're in a romantic relationship. And if you're not, again, it's all good. Again, you can use what I'm about to lift up for the parent-child dynamic, or even if you're in a relationship with your parents and you want to strengthen that piece, then, you can lift that up you can navigate based off of what I'm about to share with you, as well. And so a few things. When it comes to this dynamic, y'all, I want to be clear up front and lift up the fact that because, some of y'all, when you hear the phrase accepting influence, it stirs up something inside of you. It stirs up something inside of you. And the piece that I want you to pay attention to is that I'm not talking about you losing your voice. Nah, we not here for that. Not you losing your voice or shrinking yourself or even letting somebody like run over you. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is when adults of sound mind come together, you stop competing for control, and what you do is you prioritize safety. You stop competing for control and you prioritize safety. Like, I know a lot of folks, they don't feel safe in their marriage. They don't feel safe in a relationship. And so if they could just have a little bit of that safety, then that will go a long way. And so when it comes to this piece, as we're talking about, this accepting influence, the important piece to pay attention to is that, there's a number of ways that show up that make one feel unsafe and uncomfortable within the context of the relationship. And what we see is that, again, if it's always your way, I saw over here on IG, be seen and not heard. Yeah. And in some cases, you aren't even supposed to be seen. What up, sis? I see you. How you doing? In some cases, you aren't even supposed to be seen. Like, I don't even want you to be around right now. Some of y'all had that experience, and I'm laughing, not because it's funny, but it's unfortunate, really, that if that was your experience, that you had to grapple and deal with that. And so sometimes what we interpret as it pertains to this whole piece around accepting influence, is that this idea that marriages fall apart not because of one big thing. They don't fall apart because of a single isolated situation in most instances. It happens over a period of time in which you got layers upon layers upon layers of decay, resentment that's building up. And sometimes people just be like, I want out. And, one thing that can save it is you recognizing that you're not in this relationship by yourself, and realize that you're in a relationship with a whole grown person that wants to connect in with you, that wants to be with you, that wants to love you, but also wants to be seen, heard, respected, and wants to be able to influence you as well. Influence is not synonymous with control. Let's be clear. It's not synonymous with control. It's not. Influence is not submission, y'all. I'm not talking about submission. Some of y'all think that accepting influence is about like you just submitting. What accepting influence is, it's you standing in your strength. It's a certain level of emotional maturation. And real talk is one of the clearest signs. One of the clearest signs of a real partnership and security within the context of your relationship. And so when that's not present, you fumble in the bag. And you might be filing for divorce, or your partner might be filing for divorce. And so some of y'all may minimize the impact of you're going to do it my way. I'm going to control it. I'm going to be a big boss and I'm going to run things and it's my way or the highway. But nah, bro, it don't work like that. If you do it like that, again, she can nod her head. Says he can nod his head. He can go along and get along. But if you're unwilling to accept the influence and you think that it's only got to be your way, that builds up. That shit, it builds up. It stacks up and it starts to be painful over time. And so the 7 ways that accepting influence can save your marriage. I'm going to run through these and I really want to know, whether or not y'all can apply any of these. I do think that just having the understanding, the awareness of how it impacts will lead you to a place where you just start to soften and open yourself up just a little bit more. So when you accept influence, one way that it can save your marriage is that it breaks the power struggle. It breaks the power struggle, y'all. When both people in a relationship need to be right, nobody feels safe. One of the things that we often say in doing this work is that, do you want to be right or do you want to be in a relationship? And when you accept influence, fundamentally what you're lifting up is that it's not about winning. And it's not even about necessarily agreeing. It's about understanding. It's about understanding. And so again, when you accept your man or your woman's influence, it'll break that power struggle. Because what you're doing is you're aiming for understanding over winning the argument. Or you even aiming for understanding over top of agreement. Like, again, don't get stuck in that stalemate space. Marriages die in stalemates. And so again, make room for your man, make room for your woman. You want to aim for that understanding piece, y'all. Number 2, when you accept the influence of your man or your woman, it lowers defensiveness. Have y'all ever asked ask yourselves the question, even during the course of an argument, a disagreement, like, what am I really fighting for in the first place? Like, what is this really about? Have y'all asked yourself that question? Like, what is this really about? You'll find yourself like going back and forth, and you be committed. You be committed to your point of view and to your perspective. But you know, the reality is that it's more so about you being steeped in your ego, trying to prove a point, trying to be right. But when you accept the influence of your partner, I mean, just relax your shoulders. Be at ease. You know, you don't have to agree to be open. You don't. And so some of y'all think that my openness is an automatic indicator that I'm in agreement with you. And that's not the case. But when you accept influence, it lowers your defensiveness. Like, I ain't got to agree with you, but I'm still open to you. You know, I'm still open to you. You just got to be willing to fall back for a second and listen. And this is a hard one, y'all, without preparing yourself for your comeback, preparing yourself for a rebuttal. That single piece right there alone, quieting your mind, really listening to what's being said. Again, aiming for understanding, not being combative, not preparing a rebuttal, but just being open. Accepting influence from your man or from your woman, it will lower your defensiveness. You got to be willing to yield. Like, he or she, they have a perspective. And if you feel like they don't, why are you in a relationship with them in the first place? Like, why? If you don't value them as a person, why are you in a relationship with a person that you don't value? Why? We had this conversation. I'm not going to go into too many details, but for those who don't know, my wife and I, you know, of course, we're trained therapists and stuff, but we got this community, you know, of men and women called the Blamily, and we be getting together on a regular basis. But most recently, we had a men's lounge, and one of the topics that came up, you know, in the men's lounge was about this whole value thing. And, you know, being in relationships and whether or not people bring value to the relationship. And so it was a very interesting conversation, a very provocative one. It was a challenging one. But what I can say wholeheartedly is that with all of the voices that were heard, everybody on there was open. All of the men were open. And I believe willing to accept influence. And so I'm saying that to say, like, you know, when it comes to you being in a relationship, accepting influence, it can lower defensiveness. And it's all about like the way you approach it, how you show up, how you communicate, how you express yourself. I mean, I witnessed it firsthand. Dudes being challenged. But because because there's trust. There's trust in the belief, or at least in the push, that I want to help you get better. That I want to see you level up. That I want you to be a better man. That I'm not here to necessarily like prove my point. Like, I'm just giving you a different perspective. When there's trust in the environment, when it feels like it's a safe space, then your man or your woman, they're more inclined to lower their defensiveness. But what I'm saying to you is this, like, when it comes to you conversing with your partner, like, if you're going in there with a rebuttal, if you're going in there combative, if you're trying to prove your point, then that's not accepting influence. That's just you being on get back, or you preparing your comeback. And what I'm saying is that, like, that's not the way to go. That's not the way to go. If you're trying to de-escalate conflict, you know, I strongly encourage you to put your guards down. It don't mean you got to be smacked in the face. It don't mean you got to be hit over the head. But what it's saying is that, like, I want to see where you're coming from. I want to see where you at with it. Number 3, y'all, when you accept the influence of your partner, they feel emotionally considered. They feel emotionally considered. I don't think y'all really understand how significant that piece right there is, you know, to feel emotionally considered. You know, a lot of times what happens in a relationship is you know, we get so steeped in our perspective. We get so, you know, deeply invested and involved in our feelings that we don't necessarily consider what the other person might be feeling. We don't consider their point of view, their perspective, their fears, their insecurities, their apprehension. And so we're so steeped in what it is that we got going on that we're solely preoccupied with us. Accepting influence means that there's a world outside of what you got going that matters too. It may be your man's world. It may be your woman's world. It matters too. And so when you don't, if you want to aim for making them feel emotionally considered, then it's you sitting there and nodding your head, making eye contact and making affirming statements. And there's this act of communication that's taking place when you're engaged with them. When they feel like they're really considered, their nervous system settles. It settles down. I'm not on red alert. I'm not preparing myself for your counterpunch, or I'm not preparing myself for your get back or your comeback. I'm talking freely. Have you had that experience in your marriage or your relationship where you felt free to just be and communicate and express your thoughts and your feelings? Type a 1 in the chat. Have you had that feeling? Have you ever experienced that? Where you could just express your thoughts and feelings and you felt like you were being held. You were being emotionally tended to. Have you ever had that feeling? I know I have. And so here's the piece. It's not that your man or your woman may not be attempting to do it. But sometimes, again, we like this. We like this. We knuckling up. And so we're preparing for pain instead of preparing for an opportunity to connect. When you accept their influence, it becomes a pathway, a gateway to intimacy. Yeah, Yvonne, your partner, they feel treasured. They do. They feel like they're important, like they matter. And so again, you want to make sure that you're putting yourself in a position in which what you're doing is you're emotionally considering them when you accept their influence. They start to feel safe, y'all, when they feel considered. And these are all things that we're aiming for in a relationship. Like, you want your man or your woman's nervous system to feel settled. You want him or her to feel safe. You want him or her to feel important. You do. You want them to feel considered. You want them to feel emotionally secure. And so one pathway to do this is to accept their influence. Number 4, y'all. When you accept your man or woman's influence, it creates flexibility instead of rigidity. I've said this over and over and over again. Rigidity will be the death of your marriage. Now, I'm not saying that you won't stay married. You could still be married and your marriage be dead. Yes. Yeah. So what I'm saying is this: like, if you want a marriage that's flourishing, that's thriving, that's banging, that's connecting, that's intimate, that's sensual, that's soulful, there needs to be a certain level of flexibility. And when you accept influence, what you're demonstrating is flexibility. Rigid marriages, they break under pressure. They break. But I think I said this to my wife the other day. Be like the fern, Fern, bend but don't break. It's okay to bend. Flexible marriages, what they do, y'all, is they adapt. They adapt to the circumstances. They know how to get in formation. They know how to fall down and pick up the pieces. Flexible marriages allow marriages to bend but not break. And that's what you want. That's what accepting influence allows you to do. Again, if you're rigid in your relationship, then what happens is that rigidity, it feels like your partner's voice don't matter. Like their perspective is invalid. And so you want to make sure, again, that you're making room for him or her. When it comes to accepting influence, another thing that it does is it reduces resentment in the relationship. Y'all know resentment grows when you don't feel seen or when you don't feel heard. There's some of y'all who are on here right now that are in that type of situation. I don't feel seen. I don't feel heard. My perspective don't matter. You don't listen to me. You don't take my points of view into consideration. And what happens is that, like, again, you start to question your value in the marriage. And resentment starts to build. Resentment starts to build. And so when one person feels unseen or not heard or constantly overridden in the context of the relationship, then they start to feel less than and they get mad. They walk around holding on to that piece. They could be smiling at you, but there's this thing that's stewing and that's brewing inside. That's resentment. Yeah, that pot is boiling. That pot is boiling. If you get too close, if you touch me in the wrong way, you can get burnt. And so you want to make sure that you're accepting the influence of your partner because it definitely reduces resentment. Of all of the 5 that I've shared thus far, Blamley, I want to give y'all a chance. If y'all want to say anything, echo any sentiments or add some additional context to any of the ones that I lifted up, you can feel free to raise your hand and I'll bring you on and you can share, your point of view and your perspective. You may have had a recent situation in which, you accepted influence of your partner or your partner accepted the influence of you that you want to speak about. And so if y'all do got something, raise your hand and I'll bring you forward. All right, number 6. Before I go to number 6, y'all, again, we got the Building Better Communication 21-day challenge coming up. It's starting January the 1st. And if you're on IG, you can comment communicate to get your spot, or you can DM the word communicate to get your spot, or you can DM the word talk. Talk is easier. So you can just type talk on this live right here, or you can DM us the word talk and we'll send you information in reference to that. For everybody else, y'all can go to blamchallenge.com to register. It's less than $1 a day, y'all. So the price ain't nothing but a thing. Less than $1 a day. I said $1. I put an S at the end of it. $1 a day. It's less than $1 a day, for this 21-day challenge. So get your spot at blamchallenge.com. We're going to be diving into communication. This is where a lot of people struggle. And if you want to level up in this area, you want to make sure you go there. We're going to be coming together a few times over the course of this challenge. It's going to be dope, y'all. It's going to be dope. All right, y'all. We on? Number 6. Number 6. When you accept the influence of your partner, and I spoke about this earlier, but it models emotional leadership for your children. It models emotional leadership for your children. Whether you realize it or not, your kids are watching, fam. They really are. They're watching. They're watching you. They're watching your partner. And they're watching how you move in your relationship. And so, accepting influence teaches them about how to partner in a relationship. It does. It teaches them that being in a marriage, being in a relationship is about collaboration and not control. It teaches them to understand what it looks like to move in a balanced way, in a unified way. It teaches them what teaming looks like. It does. Yeah, Yvonne said it's sexy. It's sexy. It's as simple as that. Like, it's something that's aspirational. And so your children are watching, fam. Whether you realize it or not, they're watching. And my wife and I, we often had this conversation, not often, but we have had this conversation about the way that we parent and how our children respond to us and who's listening to who. Now, if she was on here with me right now, this right here will probably be that time during the live stream where we got the back and forth banter going on because I got a perspective and she got a perspective. And so, but she ain't on here. And so what I like to say, and what I often say is that a lot of times what happens is they well, I ain't gonna speak on my relationship right now because she ain't here to provide the other perspective. But how you show up matters. How you show up matters. And so, again, you want to make sure that you're doing it in a way in which you're again, for the fellas, let me say this. You want to know when to step forward, and you also want to know when to fall back. If you're only stepping forward, then sometimes your wife is feeling stepped on. I'm just saying. We gotta, you want to know when to step forward and you want to know when to step back. And so it's a dance that's taking place. And I know we feel like a whole bunch of pressure in this whole concept and idea of, head of household and lead and all of that type of jazz. But, keep in mind too, there's a number of different domains within the family dynamic. There's things that I'm strong at that my wife ain't strong at. There's things that I'm strong at that my wife could care less about. There's things that she's strong at that I'm not strong at. There's things that she's strong at that I could care less about. And so if you're trying to do everything, bro, sis, if you're trying to do everything, you're blocking your blessing. Because God has gifted you with somebody who can do something better than you. Step back. And in many instances, what you'll do is you'll watch them step forward. I mean, I said this, I believe, during the last live stream. There's a number of brothers who have forgotten how to step forward because they're afraid of what the ramifications may be when they do. And so they've forgotten. They've stopped doing it. And so you think that they're allowing you to step forward, but nah, it's more so like, I don't feel comfortable no more because I feel like whenever I have, y'all had those experiences like maybe when you was like maybe in preschool, if you had a teacher. Anybody had the experience with the ruler? The teacher that had the ruler? You do something like still slap your hands with the ruler? Anybody had that experience? I might be a little bit older than yeah. So if you was a 70s baby, you probably had that experience. If you a 70s baby, then you probably had that experience. They'll slap your hand with the ruler. So sometimes dudes feel like that. Dudes feel like when they express their thoughts and feelings, when they have a perspective, when they share their voice, y'all hitting them with the ruler, with your mouth. And as a result, you learn over time. It's like Pavlov, y'all. It's like that bell piece. When the bell rings, you respond to the stimuli. They don't want to be hit, and so they stop speaking. And so it goes both ways. Your wife don't want to be hit, and so they stop speaking too. Hold up, Joe. Why the family? They talking about the ruler had a name. The ruler was named Mr. George. The ruler had a name. Oh my goodness. Freddie. That's hilarious. Third grade teacher. It's a real thing, y'all. So don't miss the point though, that sometimes your man or woman has felt like when they've attempted to express their thoughts and feelings, that the way you responded was like that ruler. And as a result, over time, they stop speaking. They stop sharing their thoughts and their feelings. And so, again, what are you modeling for your children? Is it a collaborative experience or is it one where there's control? I'm guilty of, I believe, sometimes modeling control over collaboration. And so I'll be honest about that. And again, I'm a product of a child or of a father who was born in the 50s and And so my experience shaped me. And so I have the awareness, and it's my responsibility to do better. And so I'm constantly peeling back the layers, going through a process of self-examination so I can show up differently. But it's not easy, y'all. So even when you know better, it don't mean that you're going to do better, but you got the responsibility to do better and to keep on working until you get that shit right. We got to figure it out. And so we want to make sure that we're modeling emotional leadership for our children. That's one of the values of accepting influence from your spouse, because they watching. They are definitely watching. And then the last one, y'all. When you accept influence from your spouse, it opens the door back to intimacy. It does. I mean, early on this live stream, Yvonne, she said, like, it's sexy when you accept influence. It's attractive. It's inviting. It's compelling. And so, you know, what it does is it precedes the physical connection. Because when a person feels like their voice matters, their perspective and opinion matters, then what happens is that they feel like they want to be connected in with. Like we're there's a bond here between us. There's a tie between us. I feel close to you because you see me, you value me. I feel like you get me and you understand me. And when you're in situations in which that's present, like your partner feels like, they feel welcome to be close with you. It's an invitation to get close. And so it's not a situation in which, again, you go through the process of, you can say all of the right things and do the right dance, but they know. Your man or woman, they know when you're really accepting their influence, when you really open your heart, when you really sit in their seat, when you really put on their shoes, when you really, consider their point of view and their perspective. You know, sometimes it shows up in subtle ways, but in other times it's more overt. You know, how many of y'all have actually asked your man or woman for their opinion or perspective when it came to an email? Anybody do that? Like, what's your thoughts on this? These are more concrete ways in which it may show up. Anybody on here, ask their man or their woman their perspective on how should I approach our son about this? How should I approach our daughter about this? And how do you feel? I would love for somebody from the Blame Me to share this. How do you feel in situations such as what I just lifted up when your man or woman ask you for your perspective on how to approach, how to engage the children? How do you feel? I know I feel valued. I feel like, I matter and like I got the juice, like I got the sauce, like I got something my wife don't got. It's an ego-based thing, but like, she knows she ain't a man. She knows she's not a male. And as a result, like it's certain things that I understand that I get that she can't get or that she don't necessarily understand in the same way because she's not a man. Yeah, Larry said my voice matter. I feel important. I feel like I matter. And so I know I matter regardless, but it just be hitting different. You value my contribution. Yeah. That stuff is important, y'all. And so, it can be in any number of situations, or y'all are going back and forth. Y'all beefing. There's an argument. There's a certain level of tension. And your man or your woman, they just relax their shoulders and be like, I see what you're saying. And I don't even know why I'm tripping. I'm just like, yeah, I'm just going back and forth just because and just the way I'm showing up I'm out of pocket right now. So I apologize. You're right. I've done that on a number of occasions. And it softens my wife. At some point you realize, and again, we all are probably guilty of it, that you going back and forth for no damn reason. Like, one question that we tell people in the context of doing relationship work is like, who does it matter to most? Who does it matter to most? And I know what a lot of people say in response to that is like, what if it matters to both of us the same? But if you be honest with yourself, there are a lot of petty disagreements or things that y'all be beefing about that don't really matter to you that much. Give it to your man. Give it to your woman. Fall back. Stop trying to be right. You know, yeah, it ain't that. Sometimes it's just not that. So you're making it more serious by holding on to your perspective and opinion. Accept their influence, y'all. It's the bridge to intimacy. It's the bridge to intimacy and connection.